they have to.
Yeah.
If they don't have kids,
Right.
and if they're not married, they cannot be priests.
Yeah, but even that, you can still have a married priest who abuses
but
children.
it's less,
Less, yeah, most likely,
like
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they have wife and
Yeah, exactly. But for one of the Unitarian ministers that I'm talking about, he was married.
Yeah.
I think he had his own children, but he adopted a teenage Tibetan refugee and used her for a sex slave for years. So,
good luck.
thank you. Yeah. So yeah, there's another positive response from the public, and discussing the larger issues. So I'm glad we got that all recorded there. So yeah, sexual abuse of children happens in pretty much every religious community. I'd be very surprised if there's a religious community that never had any child sex abuse problem. And so the question is how does the community deal with it? Do they hold the people responsible and protect the children and not try to hide it, or do they try to cover up and hide it? And unfortunately, the Unitarian Universalist Church, just like many other churches, tries extremely hard to keep it hidden, going to extreme and foolish lengths to cover up and hide pedophilia and rape and other abuse within the church. And they rarely deal with it appropriately themselves. Like when a minister is charged with a crime, well, he's charged with a crime. That's basically the police and the court system that are dealing with it. But in cases, where a minister isn't charged with a crime, the church goes to considerable lengths to, hush it all up and protect the minister from any kind of consequences and so on and so forth. There's very, very little appropriate internal handling of sexual misconduct by Unitarian Universalist ministers, to say nothing of non-sexual clergy misconduct by Unitarian Universalist ministers. And that's where the problem lies largely. You're never going to totally eliminate sexual abuse of children or non-sexual abuse of children or abuse of adults for that matter. It's going to happen if you got a community of so many thousands of people, or so many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people. It's going to happen. There's going to be a small percentage of the members of the clergy that do these things. But the thing is how do you handle it when it happens? And the Unitarian Church is pathetic. It truly is. It even tries to hide pedophilia and rape even after ministers have been convicted. It's just insane to try and hide it, after a minister has been convicted and sentenced to a jail term, and it's still trying to cover it up. It's ridiculous. But that's exactly what the Unitarian Universalist Church does. So we're not going to keep this up too much longer because it is coming down. It's not a downpour, but it's definitely raining. My picket sign is getting water on it, not too much. It'll dry out. It'll be okay if I dry it out properly. It's not going to get all moldy as long as I properly dry it out. But I'm not going to protest a whole lot longer right now. What I may do is go have a cup of coffee. No, I don't think I'm even going to do that. I thought about having a cup of coffee and coming back, but I actually have other things to do today, where if I, protested later for, another half hour or so, it would actually interfere with my ability to do other things. So I think we've had a very good protest today. We've had 2 positive, supportive responses from the public, and 1 middle of the road one that could be seen as negative. I just got a nice nod there from the guy with the headphones, so silent affirmation nonetheless. So anyhow, yeah, I think we've done quite nicely today in terms of interactions with the public, and there's no need to continue too much longer. So I'm just going to do a little time check here. See what time it is. I'm guessing it's around 10 to 11. Oh, look at that, 10:50, right on the button. So anyhow, yeah, I think just a few more minutes. I normally wrap up at 11 anyway, so so we're just going to continue a little bit longer, and we will. We got somebody looking back at the signs here. We got another smile. Yeah, getting pretty positive responses from the public this morning, even if they're not vocal. Even if they don't say anything, you get a smile, you get an affirmative nod, and so on. Yeah, the only negative response I had today, and the guy was actually trying to say it wasn't negative, was this guy who was trying to suggest I look crazy, and he's essentially what he was saying is all one-man protesters look crazy, and it's true, that there is this sort of stereotype of the crazy one-man protester. I'm well aware of it. I was aware of it even before I began protesting. But in my experience, a good percentage of the one-man protesters that I have had experience with are basically, they have something legitimate, even if they are a little bit off base. They actually have some pretty legitimate reasons to be protesting. I don't recall ever coming across a one-man protest where the protester really had nothing legitimate to protest about. There was always an element of legitimacy to the protest, even if it was a bit over the top. The core issues were legitimate issues. I really, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying there isn't the occasional one-man protester who's totally off base, protesting something that really doesn't even exist or whatever. But in most cases, the vast majority of cases that I've seen, one-man protesters, or perhaps I should say one-person protesters, if I remember correctly, most of them I've seen are men, but there could be some women out there. So one-person protests, if you bother to see what they're protesting about and look into what they're protesting about, they usually have a pretty good reason to be protesting. And today, as I said, being the last Sunday in Child Abuse Prevention Month, today's theme was pretty legitimate about how Unitarians cover up child abuse of all kinds, not just child sex abuse, but even non-sex abuse of children. And one thing I didn't talk about is possible child abuse occurring with members of the Unitarian Church of Montreal itself. Indeed, there's at least circumstantial evidence that Reverend Ray Drennan had an abusive relationship with one of his daughters. Oh, there goes a Station 11 police car driving right by. And we probably won't be having a chat with him today because I'm about to leave anyway. And I think they have a pretty good handle on the situation. I think they know that, I'm very well within my rights. We've had all kinds of disputes about whether I'm within my rights in the past. We've had disputes about the chalk slogans and the freestanding picket signs and so on. But I've always made it clear that no, I'm quite certain I'm within my rights, and asked them to, check things themselves. The last time there was a dispute over the chalk slogans, and police officers were trying to persuade me that it was illegal, I said, no, I'm pretty sure there's been court rulings that uphold the right to make chalk slogans, that it's protected, as part of freedom of expression and so on in the Constitution. And I said, why don't you, I'll check with my legal advisors and you check with yours. And then, if you want to come back and give me a ticket, well, you can come back and give me a ticket, and I'll contest it. We'll take it to court. We'll see what the situation is. Well, I haven't got a ticket for chalk slogans since. I did get one years and years and years ago, which I did contest, and I got one of the hack judges at Montreal Municipal Court who upheld it when she really shouldn't have. So yes, I did actually get one ticket for chalk slogans, I'd say over a decade ago now, maybe 12, 13 years or so ago. that's the last time I got a ticket for chalk slogans. As I said, there's been disputes, there's been, I'd say fairly civil discussions with SPVM police officers about whether or not I can do chalk slogans, and we've basically concluded that yes, this is well within my rights. In fact, there's been at least a few occasions, or at least one minimum, where police officers have come. No, there's been a few where police officers have come. They've seen my chalk slogans, they've seen my freestanding picket signs, they've seen everything I'm doing, and they have agreed that yes, everything is kosher, everything's within your rights, and they've left. So so that's it, is, when it's that clear, it's that clear. So we're coming to the end of a half-hour segment of video here, and we're wrapping this up. So again, it's the last Sunday in April of 2018. It is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. So I believe that's a United States thing. Basically, April being Child Abuse Prevention Month. And so I've been using or playing up to that theme in terms of my protests outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal in April. We'll continue to talk about child abuse committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, because that's one of the many issues that I've been talking about, and it's one of the many issues that the Unitarian Universalist Association itself brought to a head by falsely accusing me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for allegedly, and I do say allegedly, making unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. So they accused me of violating Canada's blasphemy law in an effort to intimidate me into removing blog posts about pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers. And I'd have to say that that's a truly laughable misuse and abusive misuse, if you don't mind my saying so, of Canada's blasphemy law, or anti-blasphemy law, which is on its way to being repealed. It's taking a bit of time, but it should be repealed soon. And here we're coming to the end of